Tucker Carlson releases his first batch of January 6th footage, which has sent the entire internet into a tizzy and people retreating into their own corners. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about some of the reactions to this and what some of this means going forward as we go over what's going to happen with our society and democracy from this. In other news, let's be realistic. We're not going to do any other news today. There's way too much just to talk about with this. But if we do finish up before 8 o'clock Central Time tonight, we will also be talking about the Atlanta police releasing aerial footage of the training center rioters and some more about what happened with the arrests there. The 2 Americans that were killed in the Mexico kidnappings have been identified at this point. I believe the other 2 that are still MIA have not been identified yet, but we'll be talking just a bit about that. And Ukraine vows not to give up Bakhmut amid constant Russian attack. It is going to be all this and probably not more, let's be realistic. I was the one flying the balloons. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good evening, Ed Heads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and this is your evening news. We have got the Tucker stuff to talk about here tonight, and there is a lot of it. I've got a lot of video, I've got a lot of tweets, I've got a lot of reaction to this as well, as it does seem that there is a bit of a panic that's setting in over the fact that this is getting released, and a lot of narrative spin, of course, from, the people who are the usual suspects here, who legitimately just want to stay in power. So we're going to be going over some of that here. For those of you who see this both live and on the replay over on the Instagram side, I will let you know this is actually going to be a very short Instagram video today. We'll go through the finance, obviously, when we're getting more people gathering in. And by the way, that'll give you a chance to go back and check out the link that's in the description over the Instagram side. But because so much of today's episode is going to be centered on video, it's just, there's no point for me leaving the Instagram up once we get out of finance. I'm going to say that right off the bat, because all you're going to see is me sitting here doing this on Instagram. And that's all you're going to see, me not talking, because, I've got a 10-minute video clip that I'm going to share in full. I know most everybody else has edited it down, but I'm going to share it in full for discussion purposes. We'll probably be stopping in between here and there to talk about some of the points that Tucker made, but yeah, there's a lot to go over just on that one story. If we do finish that up, we'll be talking a bit about Atlanta, we'll be talking a bit about Ukraine, we'll be talking a little bit about Mexico, but I do anticipate it's going to be 8 o'clock before we are done talking about the Tucker thing. So we might not even finish everything. No, I'll take that back. I think we'll finish everything that I have on the Tucker stuff, but he's planning on going and doing this again tonight as well. So we'll be talking about that. Fair warning, and I put this out on Twitter and in my Discord as well. This is typically, I try to keep my show AM radio friendly, just in case people are, driving home with the kids or on the AM radio or want an alternative to the AM radio, because that does get dry and boring and you have to listen to 10 minutes of content before listening to 15 minutes of commercials. Whereas you come over here, you don't have to listen to 15 minutes of commercials at all. But I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I cannot make that promise tonight. There is probably going to be a point, and I'm going to break it right now, where I'm going to bust in the middle of Chuck Schumer talking, and I'm going to say that is bullshit. And if I was Rupert Murdoch, I would tell Chuck Schumer that he can go and get fucked. Now that the cherry is popped. Because in both instances and in both situations, yeah, and we'll talk a bit more about what Chuck Schumer had to say later on here tonight, but with the filibustering done, let's get into it. Let's get started. Let's get the live chat up here, see what you guys are doing. Let's see. Ron Helton. Yeah, I saw that. I'm sure they already lost Bachman. We talked a bit about that last week. Arvolt is picking up some tacos, but I think Arvolt has got to come up the Mississippi River for a few hours and drop off the tacos that he's picking up. I don't know that he's actually going to be done by the time we're done here. But go tell some friends, by the way, if we want to get in and actually have a discussion about what's happening with the January 6th. I know that a lot of you have probably listened to Sticks, and Tim Pool and their takes on this already, but a lot of chance you don't get in and you can't get a word in edgewise in those streams. You can actually get in and talk to some friends about this as well. So get some more people in here. Let's get into it. Let's get started. Before we do, of course, make sure you guys all go check out great programming such as the Daily Ignoramus, who I'm sure that Steven has got a lot to say about what got released here today. I have not had a chance to listen to Steven Ignoramus, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm sure that he has had a lot to say about this. The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-rated conservative, slated for his grand return on April 1st, so go check that out. The No Gimmicks podcast, The Porch Boys, tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, and more if you're looking for great news and great culture from the common man for the common man. And I'll shorten my spiel today because we all hear it every day. Let's fly through the finance and let's get down into the meat and potatoes of this. You got about 5 to 10 minutes to go tell some friends to get in here and have the discussion. All right, let's get started. Starting with the Dow. The Dow spent the day down, ending today at 32,856.46. That is down 574.98 points, giving up everything that it gained yesterday. And everything that it gained the day before, actually, too, bringing us down 1.72% on the markets. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, they're probably not going to say this, and I don't know what IBD is going to say. But with the uncertainty of the government and people starting to look through the January 6th narrative, I think because uncertainty in government is always a driver of down news for the markets, I do think that played a role in what happened on the Dow today. Looking at your Bitcoin has stayed mostly steady throughout the day, losing 221 US dollars and 30 US cents, or about 10%. Towards the very end of the day, and after clawing its way back from a further drop, there was one big V-shaped drop in about the middle of the day, and it came back up before bouncing itself down and bringing itself back up to 22,188 US dollars and 30 US cents. Looking at the gas prices in the Madison area, we see another significant rise. The quick trip on the west side is to 340. So if you didn't go top off before, go do it now. The quick trip entering the isthmus is also at 340. The BP on the other side of the isthmus, that was yesterday's high price, is 326, steady from yesterday. The Amoco in the middle of the isthmus is still at 316, and all the other quick trips in the area are to 340. So go top off as soon as you're done with the show, or put the show on your radio when you go top off, because it's coming. If it hasn't hit your area already, it is coming. So that is what we see from that. Let's grab one from IBD. Dow tumbles over 500 points on faster Fed Chief Powell. Tesla falls below key level from Ed Carson. Dow Jones futures tilted higher after hours, along with the S&P and the NASDAQ. CrowdStrike rallied late on earnings, while AI play SoundHound tumbled. The stock market rally saw serious losses after Fed Chief Jerome Powell said policymakers are prepared to increase the pace of the rate hikes. The S&P 500 knifed through its 21-day moving average and undercut its 50-day line. Tesla fell below a key level, but that could still be constructive action. Tech titans Apple, Microsoft, and Google, parent Alphabet, which were modest winners to Monday, gave up those gains on Tuesday. Many leaders held up reasonably well, though others took on some more damage. Delta, New Relic, and Canada Solar flirted with buy signals as their respective groups did well. Investors should be cautious about new buys in the very short term and might want to reduce overall exposure somewhat. DAL is on the IBD Big Cap 20. New Relic was Tuesday's IBD stock of the day. On the Fed minutes, which we're not even going to touch today, I didn't even try to put that on the stack today. Citing stronger economic data, Fed Chief Jerome Powell said the ultimate level of rates is likely to be higher than previously anticipated. Markets had already been pricing in higher rates than the Fed's late 2022 forecast for a peak rate of about 5.1%. Yeah, prepare for 7, just so you know. Prepare for 8 if they're actually going down this road. But Powell also signaled he's open to accelerating Fed rate hikes. If the totality of the data were to indicate that faster tightening is warranted, we would be prepared to increase the pace of rate hikes. That puts even more pressure on Friday's February jobs report, as well as next week's CPI inflation report. The odds of a 50 basis point Fed rate hike on March 22nd shot up to 70.5%, up from 31% on Monday and 24% a week earlier. You think they're ballsy enough to do 3/4 of a point? I think they are. Honestly, at this point, given the data that the shrinking of the analysis of December and Q4, the accelerated inflation that came back as soon as they started dropping the rate hikes, I think they're ballsy enough to do 0.75%. We will see on March 22nd, 15 days. We'll see in 2 weeks, but I think they're ballsy enough to go 3/4 again. Let's see. On the futures, Dow futures rose 0.1 versus fair value. The S&P and NASDAQ futures climbed slightly. Investors will get the ADP employment report at 8:15 a.m. Eastern Time, providing an estimate of private payrolls in February. But the ADP report has an uneven record of forecasting the Labor Department's jobs report. The February jobs report is due on Friday. The JOLT survey at 10 a.m. Eastern Time will reveal job openings as of January. And remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So we will see, especially after a dump like that, after a dump like today's, there's not a lot of place else for them to go but up. And on the layoffs report, which almost got completely swallowed up by the Tucker News, I do want to point out that there's another big layoff coming out of big tech, Meta. Facebook is planning thousands of more cuts after widespread layoffs, report says. From Jonathan Vanian. Meta plans another round of layoffs that could affect thousands of workers, according to a Bloomberg News report published Monday evening. The job cuts could start this week and represent an additional round of layoffs, adding to the 13% of Meta workers who were laid off as part of a major cost-cutting plan announced in November. A Meta spokesperson declined to comment to CNBC about the report. Zuckerberg has previously indicated that the social networking giant would be concentrating this year on efforts to intended to lower the company's costs, pitching 2023 as the year of efficiency. He told analysts in February that Meta is focused on cutting projects that aren't performing or may no longer be crucial, and that it plans on removing layers of middle management to make decisions faster. We will replace them all with AI like me, Mark Zuckerberg. I am totally a human. Let's get some sweet baby raise. The cost-cutting efforts come at a challenging time for the consumer technology company, which said its costs and expenses jumped 22% year over year to $25.8 billion during the fourth quarter, while overall sales dropped 4% to $32 billion. Meta's core online advertising business continues facing hurdles because of factors including a tough digital advertising market and more people figuring out what an ad blocker is, lingering effects of Apple's 2021 iOS privacy update, and increased competition from ByteDance-owned TikTok, which I still don't use. I've been urged to use it again, by the way. Meanwhile, the company continues to heavily invest in developing for the metaverse, which Meta believes could represent the next frontier for mainstream computing. Yeah, we're not going to be living in Ready Player One just yet, I don't think. The company's Reality Labs division, which is tasked with building the virtual reality and augmented reality technologies needed for the metaverse, brought in $727 million in revenue during the fourth quarter, but also recorded a $4.28 billion operating loss. Zuckerberg has said he would take accountability for the company's previously announced cost-cutting plan, saying that he views layoffs as a last resort. Well, last resort or not, they're taking another big chunk, 13% of the remaining Meta workers. So I guess I guess we can't probably still say that on YouTube, but learn to do that thing that involves programming computers probably fell flat. All right, we're done with all our finance for the day. Let's get to what you're all here for. And as I promised in the cold open, as I promised in the warm open, we're going to take the band-aid off. I don't usually do extended video on here, but this one, especially with the historicity of it, I think bears being aired in its fullness. Like I say, Tim cut this down. I was hate listening to Tim earlier. He cut this down. I know Styx doesn't play video at all. I'm sure Shapiro has had a version of this. I'm sure Shapiro is actually against Tucker on this one. I haven't listened to Shapiro in forever, but I'm sure Shapiro is pretty pissed at Tucker about this one. So I'm sure he's got the selected affiliated clips to say, "Oh, okay, gang. Tucker he's out there. He's inciting another insurrection. Okay, we need to make sure that Trump never gets into office again, because we need to have more war, because we need to make sure that we go take down Iran. Okay." But we are going to listen. It is 9 minutes and 52 seconds, and we're going to listen to it in its entirety. We may stop from here and there for me to comment on things that he said, but for the most part, we're going to listen to this in its entirety, and I am going to, while we're listening to this, I am going to cut the Instagram feed. So if you're watching the replay over on Instagram, hit that link in my description over there and head over and check out what it is that we're watching up here. But without further ado, something I never thought I would say on this channel, here is Tucker Carlson.
The real crime, they will tell you again and again, is not what happened on Election Day 2020. The real crime is what happened 2 months later on January 6th, when Donald Trump led an insurrection against the duly elected American government. To prove that claim and to divert attention from the details of the presidential election itself, Democrats in Congress impaneled what they called the House Select Committee on the January 6th attack. The point of that committee was to prevent Donald Trump from running for president again. In December of last year, committee members voted unanimously to refer Trump to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution. Mission accomplished. But what the committee did not do was explain what happened inside the Capitol on January 6th. 3 weeks ago, thanks to the new Republican Speaker's office, we gained access to thousands of hours of surveillance video that help answer that question. The January 6th committee had access to this very same tape and watched much of it. But as we're about to show you, committee members lied about what they saw and then hid the evidence from the public, as well as from January 6th criminal defendants and their lawyers. That is unforgivable. Whatever you think of Speaker Kevin McCarthy, he rectified that crime, and we are grateful that he did. Before we show you the tape, a few words on the process. Our producers had unfettered access to the Capitol surveillance video. Neither the Speaker's office nor our bosses at Fox News interfered in any way with our investigation. Of the 40,000 or so hours of tape, most of it turned out.
And by the way, that is not for lack of trying. We have had members of the Uniparty on both sides, Democrat and Republican, and even the far, far left progressives, who were desperate to make sure that this didn't get aired. And also to get out in front of the narrative and say, because it's Tucker, that means it's evil. It's automatically evil. So I will give credit to McCarthy's office. I will be the last person in the world to give Kevin McCarthy credit. But when he done good, he has done good. Able to fend off government interference, uniparty interference, and even mainstream journalist interference from Tucker's team getting access to this. Good on Kevin McCarthy.
Out to be irrelevant. Static shots of empty rooms, in some cases far from the Capitol itself. To find relevant videotape, our producers were given use of Capitol computers with advanced mapping software. That made it easy to find what we were looking for. What we didn't have was access to facial recognition software, and that was significant. For more than 2 years, we have wondered why some in the crowd that day who seemed to be inciting violence were never indicted for it. We assumed these were federal agents of some sort. We still assume that. And in fact, there were many examples of behavior we saw in those tapes that didn't seem to make sense. Men in civilian clothes holding doors open for protesters, escorting others through the Capitol, etc. We would love to know who these people were. But as of tonight, we don't know. And because we don't know, we're not going to put their faces on the screen and suggest they were federal agents. That would be irresponsible. So there were many mysteries we could not solve. Among them, unfortunately, is the shooting of Ashley Babbitt. From the evidence we have, the publicly available evidence, it seems clear that Babbitt was murdered by a Capitol Hill police officer called Michael Byrd. Ashley Babbitt was unarmed. She was shorter in stature than average. She posed no conceivable threat to anyone. But beyond that, we can only speculate about what happened. There were no security cameras near the speaker's lobby where Ashley Babbitt was killed.
Bullshit. This is probably one of the most surveilled buildings in history. And especially given the fact that it's that close to the speaker's office. Now, if they told me that they wouldn't have access to those tapes, that I would believe. But to say there's no security cameras there, I don't buy that for a second. And I do enjoy what Tucker did here with the description of Ashley Babbitt, who, she's shorter in stature, she was unarmed, and yet we still hear from the people who believe hook, line, and sinker what happened on the January 6th committee. That this person was an immediate threat because she was violently insurrecting at the Capitol, and that automatically makes her a threat. Size be damned.
And one more thing. Virtually no one in Washington, Republican or Democrat, certainly not in the news media, wanted to see this tape released tonight. That's why it's remained hidden for more than 2 years. In recent weeks, the usual hyenas in Congress and on cable news have been howling about we are putting lives at risk by showing this tape to the public. Given that these are the very same people who support open borders and defunding the police, it is hard to take their complaints seriously. But we do take security seriously.
That was an editorial that was unnecessary. Part of the reason that I don't care for Tucker, because yes, in addition to, he's technically right, but that was an editorial that was unnecessary. You want to come out and, again, I am the last person to feign objectivity. Although, what we've heard from people like Mr. Scott who have said, who come out into the chat and have called me objective. I'm not objective. But I would not go anywhere near as far as to go back and openly yell about my detractors off of that. That is an easy way to get this dismissed as propaganda, for you to come out and say something like that, Tucker. And people are already looking for an excuse to do that because it's you. My big disagreement with Kevin McCarthy giving it to Tucker was the fact that it's going to be so easy for the people who are so entrenched in their political narratives to come out and just say that it's propaganda because it's Tucker.
So before airing any of this video, we checked first with the Capitol Police. We're happy to say their reservations were minor, and for the most part, they were reasonable. In the end, the only change that we made was in blurring the details of a single interior door in the Capitol building. You're unlikely even to notice it when we show you, and we are confident it does not affect our reporting. With that, here's the video. It doesn't answer every question from January 6th, far from it. But it does prove beyond doubt that Democrats in Congress, assisted by Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, lied about what happened that day. They are liars. That is conclusive, and that fact should prevent them from ever being taken seriously again.
Their warmongery should prevent them from ever holding office again. And if this world was just, it would. But, this world is not just.
I'm going to begin tonight with footage that shows you what was actually happening inside the Capitol. The footage does not show an insurrection or a riot in progress. Instead, it shows police escorting protesters through the building, including the now infamous QAnon shaman. Watch. These are the pictures you've seen of January 6th. They're familiar because they've been playing on a loop on every media outlet in America for the last 2 years. There's a reason for that. But it turns out there's quite a bit of video you haven't seen. And that video tells a very different story about what happened on January 6th. More than 40,000 hours of surveillance footage from in and around the Capitol have been withheld from the public. And once you see the video, you'll understand why. Taken as a whole, the video record does not support the claim that January 6th was an insurrection. In fact, it demolishes that claim. And that's exactly why the Democratic Party and its...
I want to, again, I know I keep interrupting Tucker with this. I want to talk just a bit about our mutual friend who was there that day, because his video, and Tucker brings up a good point, that a lot of this video that it's been withheld from you. If the Stephen Ignoramus live stream from, and I'm going to use Central Time for this, from approximately 3 Central until maybe 5 Central, I think maybe even before that, because it was still light out when he was leaving. So I want to say maybe 2 to 4 Central. If that live stream were to be released, that would demolish the narrative, because again, we've all been, like they showed with the video out there, of the people rushing and screaming and the violence and the this and the that and everything else. The reality is the majority of people got into the building and looked around and said, "Oh crap, what now?" And Steven's live stream showed that, which is probably part of the reason that he's never getting that YouTube channel back, or Twitch, or DLive, or Facebook, or Instagram, or anything else. Because that video clearly showed that the majority of what happened there was people being led into the building and then looking around, stopping and saying, "Shit, what now? I don't know what to do."
its allies in the media prevented you from seeing it. By controlling the images you were allowed to view from January 6th, they controlled how the public understood that day. They could lie about what happened, and you would never know the difference. Those lies had a purpose. They created a pretext for a federal crackdown on opponents of the Uniparty in Washington.
Our office wanted to ensure that there was shock and awe, that we could charge as many people as possible.
The first thing you notice from viewing the full video record of January 6th is just how many people entered the Capitol building that day. Hundreds and hundreds of people, possibly thousands, over the course of about 2 hours. The crowd was enormous. A small percentage of them were hooligans. They committed vandalism. You've seen their pictures again and again. But the overwhelming majority weren't. They were peaceful. They were orderly and meek. These were not insurrectionists. They were sightseers. Footage from inside the Capitol overturns the story you've heard about January 6th. Protesters queue up in neat little lines. They give each other tours outside the Speaker's office. They take cheerful selfies and they smile. They're not destroying the Capitol. They obviously revere the Capitol. They're there because they believe the election was stolen from them. They believe in the system. Here's the man you've heard referred to as the QAnon shaman outside the Senate chamber. These are not rioters. These are people who wandered over from a political rally.
We will not let them silence your voices.
After the rally, they walked down Pennsylvania Avenue, where organizers had secured a federal permit to hold a legal rally on the grounds of the Capitol.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol.
And I'm sure that the people, because again, I look at this and I do see something untoward. And this is just me looking at it from the outside, not seeing all the video that Tucker has seen. I'm sure that those people in D.C. were all too eager to give that permit. Oh, you want to be around the Capitol with a political grievance against the Uniparty? Here, have your permit. Oh, hey, do you want me to arrange some transportation to get some more of your friends here? Oh, do you want us to expand the permit to get more people? Here, have some more. Smile for the cameras when you get there.
Building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Once at the Capitol building, things began to get chaotic. Capitol police officers fired tear gas into the crowd. A few at the front of the herd broke windows. Someone opened the doors, and many hundreds of others just walked in.
They're going to make that the story.
Of course, they did make it the story. And at the center of it, the single most famous person arrested that day was a Navy veteran from Arizona called Jacob Chansley. often referred to as the QAnon shaman.
The so-called QAnon shaman. QAnon shaman.
Someone named Q Shaman.
Jacob Chansley became the face of January 6th, a dangerous conspiracy theorist dressed in outlandish costume who led the violent insurrection to overthrow American democracy. For these crimes, Chansley was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison, far more time than many violent criminals now receive. What did Jacob Chansley do to receive this punishment? To this day, there is dispute over how Chansley got into the Capitol building. But according to our review of the internal surveillance video, it is very clear what happened once he got inside. Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides. Here's video of Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jacob Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate. Watch.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us in this building.
Contrast the reality of what Jacob Chansley did in the Capitol building on January 6th, the indisputable facts recorded on video, some of which has never before been seen, with the depiction of Jacob Chansley that you've seen in the media for more than 2 years. He's a terrorist, they said. He should be killed.
Shoot him. Shoot him. Like, you burst into the United States, if he was dressed like bin Laden, would you have shot him?
Shoot him! Shoot him! It makes you wonder, who are the violent extremists here? Not Jacob Chansley, and the video proves that. But you would never have known from the media coverage.
The people sitting in the chairs need to be sitting in a jail cell.
Chansley is in a jail cell. He's been...
Yeah, that sounds about like what Lindsey Graham would have to say about something like that. I have not found any video thus far. We're probably going to be talking about this tomorrow, especially since Tucker is set to release more video of this tomorrow. But I would love to see Mr. Graham's reaction to this. I want to see what side he thinks is going to be more beneficial to him. That's going to be an interesting one.
There for months. If he was in fact committing such a grave crime, why didn't the officers who were standing right next to him place him under arrest? Until now, no one could even prove that even happened. But it did.
So that is the video, and by the way, it completely paints a different picture. Now, a lot of things that we can talk about with what's happening here, and some of that starts out with what I started with when we first started talking about this, and that is the fact that because it is Tucker, one of the things to keep in mind about this, about what's going to be said about this, and about where this is going to go, is that it is incredibly simple to completely dismiss this by anybody who reliably votes Democrat, and I mean not independent voters, but anybody who is a constant, reliable Democrat vote will come down and immediately dismiss this as a lie and a propaganda because it is Tucker Carlson. And that was one of the complaints that I made when they first announced the fact that this was getting released to Tucker, was the fact that you are releasing this to the person who is the most easily dismissed. You know, your Brooklyn, Jersey, my wife's son, Reliant, and JoJo from Joy's, and people like that are going to be out here. And the first thing that they're going to say is, it's Tucker. Tucker is Fox News, and Fox News is faux news, and Rupert Murdoch controlled propaganda, and a host of other things. But when we look at something, and I don't have any love lost for Tucker Carlson myself. Number one, he is my direct competition, plain and simple. And number two, I do think that he is propagandistic to the other side. With that being said, this was probably one of the more professionally put together and calm depictions of this. I mean, he had his editorialization into it. And yes, what we were seeing here in these 10 minutes was selectively edited. That's going to be the other argument that comes from our friends to the leftoids. It's selectively edited. So was everything that was put forward to the January 6th committee. But for the fact the 2 years in the narrative formed, only showing the most violent depictions of anything that happened and any exculpatory evidence, any counter evidence, any sort of cross-examination, redress, or anything was disallowed. Just the fact that these video clips exist, not doctored, not edited, but the fact that they exist blows a hole in the narrative of what the January 6th committee did. Without giving the big monologue that went with that, the clip that we did could have been shortened to 3 minutes. Just show the footage without any speaking over. And that by itself blows a hole in the narrative of what we've been shown, because they've only shown the damning evidence. They haven't shown anything else. All right, let's talk a bit about what's happening with this and what our friends and our pundits have to say. From The Hill, which is, at least in the headline, surprisingly objective in any of this. We'll see how editorialized the actual writing is, but the headline is actually objective. From The Hill, Tucker Carlson shows the first bit of his January 6th footage and calls it a mostly peaceful chaos. From Emily Brooks, Dominic Mastrangelo, and Rebecca Beach. An editor's note to this, Rep. Barry Loudermilk of Georgia was asked to sit for a voluntary interview with the House Select Committee, probing the January 6th Selfie Fest. The information was incorrect in an earlier version of this story. So they've already had to, I guess, honestly, I don't believe anything that The Hill says I'm pretty sure The Hill got caught with their pants down and had to go back and issue a retraction. Fox News host Tucker Carlson released the first portion of never-before-seen angles of footage from the January 6th Selfie Fest, describing the scene at one point as a mostly peaceful chaos. Deadly insurrection. Everything about that phrase is a lie, Carlson said on his widely watched weeknight program. Very little about January 6th was organized or violent. Surveillance video from inside the Capitol shows mostly peaceful chaos. Well, that's the other thing, too. And while I will not disagree that there was violence that happened at the Selfie Fest, the narrative that's been put forward, the narrative that we're forced to believe, is that this was something that was hatched in a back room, and all the people that were there were sitting in there with mustaches. They shaved their mustaches off or grew the beards out around them, but they were twirling their mustaches saying, "We are going to organize, we're going to be the new government. Yes, we will be evil. We'll be an evil government to attack the transsexual people." There have been multiple deaths tied to the attack by the biggest stretch possible, and roughly 1,000 arrests have been made in connection with it, while some 500 have pleaded guilty over their roles that day. More than 100 law enforcement officers were injured during the riot. Carlson showed footage of the people who entered the Capitol on January 6 roaming the hallways without vandalizing or warring with police officers, including Q Shaman, Jacob Chansley, being followed by officers walking behind him and passing a group of several officers without being stopped. While Carlson said that it was not clear how Chansley got into the Capitol, documents filed relating to a plea agreement from the Q Shaman said he admits that he entered the building through a broken door around a minute after it was breached, becoming one of the first 30 rioters in the Capitol. Already public security footage shows his entrance. Carlson downplayed other widely circulated... There's the editorialization right there. Carlson downplayed other widely circulated footage from January 6th that showed rioters assaulting officers who were met with bear mace. No, actually he showed that. And violence, in some cases getting pinned in doorways. Other footage shows rioters breaking windows and vandalizing the building as they roam through the hallway, the evil mustache-twirling villains that they are. Carlson aired the footage after being granted access to the trove of security tapes by Speaker McCarthy, prompting outrage from Democrats and pundits in the media, who raised concerns that the tapes could threaten Capitol security procedures. No, that is the bullshit line that they're getting out there to make you afraid to go watch them and afraid of the fact they're getting released. Oh my god! It's all a stage show, folks. Carlson aired the footage after being granted access to a trove of security tapes by Speaker McCarthy, prompting outrage from Democrats and pundits in the media, who raised concerns about the tapes could threaten Capitol security procedures and amplify conspiracy theories. Well, when you have the actual receipts, it's not a conspiracy theory anymore. The influential Fox News host on Monday continued to nod to such a theory circulating on the right that federal agents helped incite the violence, though he stopped short of providing evidence to prove it. For more than 2 years, we wondered why some in the crowd that day seemed to be inciting violence were never indicted for it. Carlson said, "We assumed these were federal agents of some sort. We still assume that. In fact, there were many examples of behavior that we saw in those tapes that didn't seem to make sense. As of tonight, we don't know. Because we don't know, we will not put their faces on screens and suggest they were federal agents. That would be irresponsible. So there were many mysteries that we could not solve." Carlson said that he was grateful to McCarthy, whom he has criticized in the past for granting his team access to the footage. Well, it's not a religious cult. When somebody does good, we praise them. We give them a treat. When they do bad, we smack them across the nose with a newspaper. As McCarthy faced GOP opposition that threatened to derail his speakership, Carlson had suggested that he pledged to release the full January 6th security footage online. Carlson charged that members of the January 6th House Select Committee lied about what they saw in the security footage. Whatever you think of Speaker McCarthy, he rectified that crime, and we're grateful that he did it. Benny Thompson, who I don't have his statement up here, so I'll read that one here, said in a statement Monday evening that it is a dereliction of duty for Kevin McCarthy to give Tucker Carlson carte blanche access to sensitive U.S. Capitol security surveillance footage from one of the darkest days in history of our democracy. And again, as usual, when a Democrat says our democracy, they mean our hegemony. Despite repeated warnings as to the sensitive nature of this footage, the Speaker decided it was more important to give it to a Fox News host who spews lies and propaganda than to protect the Capitol and police, members and staff that serve in it. Carlson said that his producers had unfettered access to the Capitol surveillance video and that neither the Speaker's office nor his bosses at Fox News interfered with their review of the footage. Most of the more than 40,000 hours of tape was irrelevant views of empty rooms, he said, which is fair. Capitol Police reviewed the footage shown on air, and Carlson said their reservations were minor and reasonable. His show blurred the details of the interior door in the Capitol due to those concerns. "There's a limit to the decisions we can make about the footage," Carlson said. He also revisited the clip of Josh Hawley fleeing the Capitol, complaining it had been selectively edited, as Hawley was at the tail end of a group of senators who jogged out of the Senate chambers. I have that clip, by the way. We'll be watching that. Well, we'll skip ahead and we'll do that one real quick. The Vigilant Fox tweets out, the Josh Hawley Coward tape proves to be a lie after further review from the Tucker Carlson team. The surveillance footage we reviewed shows the famous clip was a sham, edited deceptively by the January 6th committee. The clip was propaganda, not evidence. The actual videotape shows that Hawley was one of the many lawmakers being ushered out of the building by Capitol Hill police officers, and in fact, Hawley was at the back of the pack. The coward tape was a lie, one of many from the January 6th committee. Let's watch.
When the committee wasn't accusing Republican office holders of planning riots on January 6th, it was accusing them of running away from those riots like cowards. In the case of Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri, the committee and their allies accused him of both.
Josh Hawley is a...
To prove that Josh Hawley was a coward, the committee released video of him loping out of the building on the afternoon of January 6th with a police escort. The tape became a staple on social media. Democrats laughed with derision.
Later that day, Senator Hawley fled after those protesters he helped to rile up stormed the Capitol. See for yourself.
But in fact, the surveillance footage we reviewed shows that famous clip was a sham, edited deceptively by the January 6th committee. The clip was propaganda, not evidence. The actual videotape shows that Hawley was one of many lawmakers being ushered out of the building by Capitol Hill police officers. And in fact, Hawley was at the back of the pack. The coward tape was a lie, one of many from the January 6th committee.
So there's that. When the January 6th committee aired the clip in July, however, the purpose was to demonstrate that Hawley, too, there's your editorialization again right there, rushed to leave the chamber to avoid a crowd that hours earlier he had greeted with a raised fist of solidarity. Yep, so the Hill is going to basically editorialize this to death. Let's see. Carlson also, well, we'll do the Loudermilk thing because they made a big deal about the edit, and then we'll move on from this highly editorialized article. Carlson also offered a selective retelling of the tour Rep. Barry Loudermilk gave a crowd of constituents the day before the Selfie Fest. The Fox News host rehashed the details already known about the episode, that Loudermilk gave the tour to constituents and toured only House office building and hallways while failing to make it into the actual Capitol. But Carlson failed to mention that two of the men in Loudermilk's party did show up at the Capitol grounds on January 6th. They were already in D.C. They were presumably as fans of Loudermilk, also fans of Trump at the time, which means they probably went to his rally, which means that when he says that they're going to walk over and peacefully protest, then they might have been swept up in the crowd. That's circumstantial at best, by the way. There's no escape. Pelosi, Schumer, Nadler, we're coming for you. We're coming in like white on rice for Pelosi, Nadler, Schumer, even you, AOC. We're coming to take you out, pull you out by your hairs. One of the men Loudermilk gave a tour to set outside the Capitol on January the 6th. And that guy should be arrested. He should. Loudermilk was asked to sit in for a voluntary interview by the January 6th panel alongside 4 other Republican lawmakers, but he did not meet with their investigators, which is good. So, that is the Hill's editorializing their spin on this. The Daily Wire, Tucker Carlson releases January 6th footage that raises new questions. From Ryan Saavedra. Fox News host Tucker Carlson released new surveillance footage from the January 6th Selfie Fest that appears to show 2 Capitol police officers escorting Jacob Chansley, known as the Q Shaman, throughout the building. Carlson released the footage after being given exclusive access to House review. Not one of them even tried to slow him down, Carlson continued before suggesting that Chansley understood the Capitol Police were his allies. Carlson also released footage of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick that he claims was taken after he was supposedly murdered by the mob outside. Let's look at that.
And several police officers in the meantime.
But Brian Sicknick should not be reduced to a prop for the political ambitions of the Democratic Party. He was a human being, The facts of his life matter, including how he died. To this day, media accounts describe Sicknick as someone who was, quote, slain on January 6th. The video we reviewed proves that is a lie. Here is surveillance footage of Sicknick walking in the Capitol after he was supposedly murdered by the mob outside. By all appearances, Sicknick is healthy and vigorous. He's wearing a helmet, so it's hard to imagine he was killed by a head injury. Whatever happened to Brian Sicknick was very obviously not the result of violence he suffered at the entrance to the Capitol. This tape overturns the single most powerful and politically useful lie that Democrats have told us about January 6th. And it was indeed a lie. The January 6th committee knew perfectly well that Brian Sicknick was walking normally through the Capitol.
There was something else that was brought up on Twitter today that I probably can't say in its fullness on YouTube. But it was questioned by one Semper Bear, or I guess he's not a bear anymore, but Semper over on Twitter, one of the former bears that I'm still friendly with, who did point out the fact that should we not be questioning a certain medical procedure that we probably can't say on YouTube that this particular Capitol Police officer most likely got? It's a fair question. I don't know the answer to that question, but it's a fair question. I've got one more here from Ian Miles Chong, and then we'll move on from this. He says Ray Epps lied in a sworn testimony at the January 6th committee. Tucker Carlson explains.
If there's one takeaway from the corpus of footage that we spent 3 weeks looking at, it's that the January 6th committee lied. Its members are liars. And as the result of those lies, core civil liberties in this country were eroded. People went to prison. They're in prison as of right now, unjustly. So those lies had consequences. So you have to ask yourself, whatever happened to the members of the January 6th committee? These liars who hurt people and the country. Well, let's see. Adam Schiff is running for Senate. Adam Kinzinger got a job at CNN. Liz Cheney somehow wound up a professor at the University of Virginia, the august University of Virginia. They're all still there. Benny Thompson, ooh, listen to his wisdom, but they're liars. And above all, this video proves it. Here's another installment. One of the enduring mysteries of January 6th is the role that intelligence and law enforcement agencies played in the events of that day. We know there was some number of undercover federal agents in the crowd at the Capitol. Officials have since admitted that under oath. But what exactly were they doing there? The January 6th committee worked hard to hide the answer to that question. We do know from contemporaneous videotape that a mysterious figure called Ray Epps encouraged the crowd to go into the Capitol. For some reason, Epps has never been indicted for that. But there's no question he did it.
We need to go into the Capitol!
Under public pressure, the January 6th committee finally interviewed Ray Epps. Epps told the committee that he never entered the Capitol and therefore never committed a crime. His text messages showed that at 2:12 p.m., he boasted to his nephew that he had, quote, orchestrated the protests at the Capitol. He admitted he helped get people there. Yet, curiously, congressional Democrats consider Ray Epps an ally, not an insurrectionist. Tonight we can tell you that at the very least, Ray Epps lied in his sworn testimony to the January 6th committee. Epps testified that when he sent the text messages to his nephew, he had already left the Capitol grounds to return to his hotel room. That is not true. The surveillance footage we found shows that, in fact, Ray Epps remained at the Capitol for at least another half an hour. You're seeing that on your screen now. What was Epps doing there? We can't say, but we do know that he lied to investigators. The January 6th committee likely knew this too. Democrats had access to the same tape, yet they defended Ray Epps. No honest investigation would do that. But the point of the January 6th committee was never to investigate anything.
And he's going to editorialize. I wouldn't have had a criticism of editorializing if he'd have stopped right at the point where he switched scenes.
Point was to stage a made-for-TV show trial. From the opening moments, the tone of the hearings was almost comically overheated and polemical. There is not a tragedy in American history that Democrats didn't liken to the protests of January 6th.
I'm from a part of the country where people justify the actions of slavery, the Ku Klux Klan, and lynching.
How staged and fraudulent was the work of the January 6th committee? Democrats hired a Good Morning America producer called James Goldston to dramatize the footage they released. They even dubbed in audio to make the pictures more sensational, as in a docudrama. The networks carried it all live as if it were real.
So that's the Daily Wire's spin on this. From the Blaze, Tucker says January 6 footage demolishes claim of insurrection. From Alex Nitzberg. On Monday night's episode of his show on the Fox News channel, conservative commentator Tucker Carlson aired some of the surveillance footage from the January 6 Selfie Fest. Kevin McCarthy has granted Carlson access. We know that. While media outlets, Democrats, and some Republicans have described the events of January 6 as an insurrection, Carlson asserted that the footage demolishes that claim. They go on to talk about Jacob Chansley being walked around, Brian Sicknick walking around healthy. On the heels of the episode, the House voted to impeach then-President Trump. The Senate did not vote on the matter until Trump had already departed from office. But when it did vote, Trump was acquitted when the number of senators who voted to convict fell below the threshold necessary for a conviction. Short, sweet, to the point. We've got one op-ed that I do want to go through, and it's the way that the headline is. And realistically, Tim Meads hit it right on the head with the headline. And I've not pre-read this article, but as far as the headline goes, he hit it right on target. History has changed. History is written by the victors. And now that, in spite of the fact that the presidency is still in Democrat hands and the Senate actually shifted further to Democrats, the House, the change in the House, and the stonewalling of government has changed history and changed who's writing history. Thanks to Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy and Fox News' Tucker Carlson, the record regarding the January 6 Capitol Hill Selfie Fest has officially changed. By the way, this is an opinion piece. This is not necessarily the opinion of the Daily Wire. The opinion is solely of Tim Meads. This is also not necessarily the opinion of Contemporary, Turns the Pages Productions, or your host, Jay Edgar. Those who have paid attention to the story have argued that the narrative put forth by the House January 6 committee and their allies in the legacy media has been largely bogus from the get-go. Now those skeptics have video footage that appears to back up their claims thanks to Carlson. As a result, the American public and future generations are one step closer to having a full look at the available evidence and drawing their own conclusions to what really happened that day. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. As Speaker of the House, McCarthy chose to give Carlson more than 40,000 hours of Capitol security footage. It was within his complete authority to do so. Leftist critics warned that doing so would endanger the Republic itself. It doesn't necessarily endanger the Republic, it just endangers their hegemony in the Republic. Some members of the press suddenly woke up and demanded that they too be given access to the footage, but many fretted about conspiracy theories. On the first night of its airing, we found several key differences from what Congress depicted for the past 2 years, according to the Fox News host. Contrary to the official story, the video evidence allegedly shows that Q Shaman was led around the building by police and could have been arrested at any moment. He wasn't rampaging through like some madmen. We know for a fact that Barry Loudermilk did not give a tour around the Capitol on January 5th. The rioters as alleged, and Senator Hawley was not the only senator to run away from the mob. He was just captured doing so, and doing it alone on security footage, and then selectively edited. These claims have been discussed for more than 24 months now, but it's been just chatter, not necessarily video content. To paraphrase a quote from investigative journalist James O'Keefe, "Content is king, everything else is just gossip." Until more information is released that debunks Carlson's claims, there's no reason to doubt that most of his version of the story thus far. Carlson's record is certainly more trustworthy than the January 6th committee or any of the lapdog journalists who have reported on that day. Because the inaccuracies of the government are now exposed, their entire version of the story, which is put forth as entirely factual, must be called into question by those who have bought it at face value. Don't take the author's words for it. Listen to Representative Massey. He told Carlson the clips shown have altered his own perception of what happened, and he was there. Let's watch.
Thomas Massey serves in the Congress. He did then, he does now. He represents the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Congressman, thank you so much for coming on. I have never seen members of Congress accuse the other, I mean, there's usually a kind of fraternity in the Congress. You're all members of Congress, 435, accuse their colleagues unfairly, without any evidence at all, of committing felonies. What's your response to this, to the lying from your colleagues in the Congress?
You've exposed so many lies tonight with these tapes that it's changed my perception of what happened 2 years ago, and I was there. The tapes of people milling peacefully about. And my hat's off to your producers for sitting over there and going through hours of this.
Yes,
but I would love to unleash the resourcefulness of the American public on these videos. I think they should be released. You know, I think it's poppycock that they can't be released because of some security issues. Look, I'm the one who's supposed to be secured by these buildings, and I'm not worried about releasing them. They need to be released. In fact, there was a Rasmussen poll that just came out. This showed over 80%, 78% of Democrats and 86% of Republicans say that all the videos should be released. And they should, because as you said, Tucker, you didn't have facial recognition software there. We also we need a complete catalog of all of the feds who were there. Tell us who they were. Let's watch the videos and let's see what they did, because there's some really strange behavior on those videos of people behind the police lines in plain clothes, like touching them on the shoulder, talking in their ear, walking around boundaries as if they weren't even there. It's very odd. I'm the one who asked Merrick Garland. I showed him the tape of Ray Epps. The Democrats didn't like it. I had to show it on an iPad for Merrick Garland to watch it, and then he refused to say how many feds were there. But that was also in the Rasmussen poll. 57% of Democrats think that it's at least somewhat likely that feds, agents of the federal government, were not just there, but were also encouraging people to riot or go into the Capitol.
It's very clear from the footage that our producers bravely slogged through for 3 weeks, and God bless them for doing it, that's exactly right, that federal agents encouraged the violence that day. We're just a TV show, and we can't show people without proof of who they really were. But I agree with your assessment completely. That obviously happened. Congressman Thomas Massey of Kentucky, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tucker, for getting this out there.
Of course.
All right. So I want to touch on what Massey said about this, and what Tim Meade said about this as well when we talk about this. Don't take this author's word for it. Listen to Massey, who told Carlson clips have altered his own perception of what happened, and he was there. One of the big issues with this, now, number one, we did the January 6th Selfie Fest committee, and we had Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and Adam Schiff all come out there and tell us, with no rebuttal, with no countermanding evidence, with no even attempt to look back, to think about this and to have somebody question this. And this was face value. With all the evidence that was presented here, we indict anybody who supports Donald John Trump as guilty and take them to the gallows. They're all guilty. But what is the standard of judgment in this country? It is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, as far as the story goes, of course, many people are going to think that it's absolute guilt, because the only thing that they've ever seen was the selectively edited footage from January 6th, from the January 6th Select Committee. And the evidence shows overwhelmingly that it was an insurrection. And as I had mentioned before, when I said that, you know, what this does, when I said this blows a hole in the narrative, that this was all a violent insurrection, an attempt to take over the Capitol, it's just because we have seen for the first time in history reasonable doubt. There has been reasonable doubt presented to us, which, I mean, again, I've had reasonable doubt, and I think most people who are watching this both live and on the replay already had reasonable doubt, because one of my best friends in the world is named Stephen Ignoramus, who was there and live streamed the thing, and I watched his stream of what was happening there. And there was already reasonable doubt that this was an insurrection. Now, for Tucker Carlson to make the accusation, and he has been, and I've called him on this, that, well, these people are liars, would require proof of both the lie, that they were lying, but also intent and malice. I would say that there is probably reasonable doubt. I can't say for positive, unless we get more video evidence, that there was intent and malice from them. There's reasonable doubt to exonerate them. I don't like the fact that there is, but there is. But just like that, on the other side, what we have seen just in the 10 minutes and a little bit more that we've seen from various videos, probably about 20 minutes of video that we've seen so far, has put reasonable doubt into the narrative. And it makes it a hell of a lot harder for members of the Uniparty who have hedged their entire political careers off the fact that this was a violent insurrection. And they have unequivocal proof of this. They don't anymore. It's over. Let's grab one from CNN. We're just going to do a headline off this one. We're running up on time. There's some stuff that I want to get to for reaction on this. And, I mean, anything that they're going to say off this is going to be a review. But the headline, we're starting to look at some of the spin on this here. Tucker Carlson, with help from Kevin McCarthy, tries to sanitize the very real violence of the January 6th selfie fest. Op-ed from Oliver Darcy. The face of Fox News is doing everything in his power to sanitize the horrific violence the nation saw unfold in real time at the U.S. Capitol in the aftermath of the 2020 election. And on Monday night, he had a major assist from Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, the mustache-twirling villain who granted him exclusive access to tens of thousands of hours of the January 6th security camera footage. After continuing to sow doubt about the legitimacy of the 2020 presidential election, it is clear the 2020 election was the great betrayal of American democracy. Tucker used his footage on Monday night to portray those who broke into the U.S. Capitol as mostly peaceful patriots who simply felt wronged by the system, instead of the mustache-twirling villains that they are. I can't read this. I can't stay in that voice for that long. And do keep in mind that I talk for a living before I do this here. I can't stay in that voice for that long. NBC also trying to cast doubt on this with their misleading headline. Tucker Carlson, with video provided by Speaker McCarthy, falsely depicts January 6th riot as a peaceful gathering. Again, we don't have to go far into this. We already see the editorialization that they're trying to do, because now they actually have to prove their claims. Now there's evidence that casts reasonable doubt. It's not evidence that these people, again, it's not evidence that there was lying, that there was malice, but there is now evidence of reasonable doubt. CNN going on to finish off. What to know about Tucker Carlson January 6th footage from Holmes Lyron, Hannah Rabinovitz, and Marshall Cohen. Let's see. We know that includes images of Q Shaman, Brian Sicknick. McCarthy granted access to 40,000 hours. Here's what was in the footage that aired on Monday. Q Shaman's role. Carlson claimed the new Capitol security footage taken on January 6 shows Jacob Chansley walking through the Capitol without pushback from police. There was no audio in the video, so it's not clear whether the officers and Chansley were talking to each other. That actually will be hard to prove because while we can see what Chansley is saying, the officers were all wearing masks. In court documents, however, prosecutors say that Capitol Police officers repeatedly tried to engage with Chansley and others in the crowd, asking them to leave. Right. That's in court documents, but once again, when we look at this, now there's reasonable doubt that they even made an attempt to get him to leave. Without audio, and if there's audio in the surveillance footage, I'd like to hear it, but without audio, I have my doubts. Well, I've had my doubts from the beginning, but without audio, I have my doubts. Sicknick's death. Carlson aired never before seen surveillance footage that he said showed Sicknick, who died a day after the selfie fest. Carlson said he focused on this because Democrats have turned Sicknick into a prop and a martyr. The video shows Sicknick in the crypt of the Capitol, appearing to give instructions to some of the nearby rioters who were milling around the area, repeatedly waving his arms. Carlson argued that Sicknick looks healthy and vigorous. On January 6th, Sicknick was attacked with pepper spray and physically fought with members of the mob. An officer testified he saw Sicknick in significant distress after he was sprayed. He died a day later, suffering a series of strokes. The D.C. medical examiner ruled that he died of natural causes, but said all that's transpired on January 6th played a role in his condition. That is circumstantial at best. The status of the DOJ prosecutions. Dismal. Backlash on Capitol Hill. We'll be talking about that in just a moment. So, that is what CNN is trying to tell you that you should believe about this. Alright, we watched the Hawley video. We can skip over that one. Here's another angle that I don't think Tucker got into, especially with the fact that it's up and down and not widescreen. DC Drano tweets out, "Why haven't you called for backup?" We finally know why after Tucker exposed this huge scandal. It turns out McConnell and Pelosi rejected multiple requests for additional cops and National Guard troops. It was a setup and they've been caught. Again, to say it was a setup, you're going to need a lot more evidence from this, but this casts a lot of reasonable doubt on the fact that this was a major planned conspiratorial event and not a bunch of people who were encouraged by people in the crowd to walk in there, look around and say, "Hey, what's going on? I'm in the Capitol. I'm in the middle of American history. What do I do now?" But let's listen to this.
Letting this happen. Why haven't you called for backup? Where is your backup? This is our damn Capitol building, and y'all are letting it get destroyed on your watch. Fuck all of you. Call for backup. Get some help down here. And if they don't want to get you fucking backup, they obviously don't give a shit about you. These people want blood. Why are you letting this happen?
So, and one of the things to go with that is when we do see something like that, we do see somebody who this could be construed, and again, there's enough reasonable doubt that I could not make a prosecution off something like this. But it's a person who knows that what the people that are out there are doing is wrong, it's wrong what they're doing. But again, there's reasonable doubt against malice. And before we go into the reactions, David Marcus tweeting one of the most blue pill takes I've ever seen in my life. David Marcus tweets out, Nobody in the news media is intentionally lying to you. Yeah, okay. Christina Pushaw replying to this saying, yes, thanks to Florida journalists, we all know that saying gay is a criminal offense. Whoops. Yeah, there are a lot of people in the news media that are intentionally lying to you. Ben Shapiro, the Young Turks, Matt Walsh. He's very based, but he is intentionally twisting the narrative at some point. Anybody on MSDNC, half of CNN. I mean, we just looked at legitimate. Don't believe your lying eyes. This is what actually happened. All right, let's look at some of the pushback to this. And yeah, we're not going to get to the Atlanta stuff tonight. I can tell you that already. Axios. Senate Republicans condemn Tucker Carlson portrayal of January 6th Selfie Fest. From Sareen Habashian. Nobody lies, smiles. Big smile for your daily injection and enjoy delicious bug soup. Thank you, Spartan. Mitch McConnell and other Republicans pushed back on Tucker Carlson's characterization of the Selfie Fest as a mostly peaceful chaos. In an internal letter Monday night, Capitol Police Chief Thomas Manger blasted Carlson for spreading the offensive and misleading conclusions about the Capitol Selfie Fest per NBC News, which obtained the memo. In brief but direct remarks, McConnell told reporters Tuesday that as far as Fox News segment went, he wanted to associate myself entirely with the opinion of the chief of the Capitol Police about what happened on January 6th. Manger slammed Carlson and said that he conveniently cherry-picked from the calmer moments of the 41,000 hours of video. But that's what January 6th committee did! Didn't pre-read this article, by the way. The commentary fails to provide context about the chaos and violence that happened before or during these less tense moments. Manger wrote that the most disturbing accusation had to do with the death of Officer Brian Sicknick. Carlson claimed that Sicknick's death had nothing to do with his heroic actions on January 6th. It probably didn't. That's the worst part. Carolyn Edwards, U.S. Capitol Police officer, described the attack as carnage and chaos during her testimony last year at a hearing of the January 6th Selfie Fest with no cross-examination. And we'll be looking at most of the rest of them individually, including from our friends over at NPR. And remember, in order for NPR to tell you that at this point, McConnell is good, but he'll be evil again when it fits our narrative, you have to hit that donate button because we had to lay off 10% of staff. So hit that donate button because the taxpayer dollars are not going far enough, and neither the advertising. Donate now because Claudia Grisales needs to tell you that for this brief moment, Mitch McConnell is a hero before we go back and accuse him of trying to gut Social Security again. NPR is never printing reality. National Progressive Radio, let's see what it is that they have to say. Mitch McConnell joined a chorus of widespread attacks on Fox News host Tucker Carlson for his portrayal of the January 6th Selfie Fest, since he accessed more than 40,000 hours of security footage. McConnell said he aligned himself with remarks issued earlier by U.S. Capitol Police Chief Thomas Manger to his rank and file, slamming Carlson's offensive and misleading conclusions about the siege. He held up Manger's one-page statement called Truth and Justice near the Senate chamber on Tuesday. Let's listen. There's that turtly one right there. This is another one where I can come out and give him praise when he does right, but for the most part, I see him for the conniving little bitch that he is.
The release of this footage, was it a mistake by Speaker McCarthy to give access to Tucker Carlson of this security footage?
My concern is how it was depicted, which is a different issue. Clearly, the chief of the Capitol Police, in my view, correctly describes what most of us witnessed firsthand on January 6th. So that's my reaction to it. It was a mistake, in my view, for Fox News to depict this in a way that's completely at variance with what our chief law enforcement official here at the Capitol thinks.
If that's the case, following up on what Ronnie said, Tucker Carlson has already teased another round of videos that are going to be released today. I understand that you're upset with the way that Fox is depicting it, but he's been forecasting this for months, asking for this access to this footage to have a presentation just like this. Was it a mistake for the speaker to hand that?
You guys know I have many faults, but one of them is not answering the question in a way that I don't want to answer it. I've given you the answer.
I don't want to answer this because it's devastating to the narrative. And that anybody who follows the evil Donald Trump is an evil person, so I'm not going to answer that. Because I don't want to. God, I hate him.
Shall I give you the same answer again? Anybody want to ask me something different?
Do you have any reaction?
Anybody want to ask me something different? Talking about what the Capitol Police Chief had to say, from CNN, U.S. Capitol Police Chief rips into Tucker Carlson over offensive use of January 6th footage. From Whitney Wild and Devon Cole. Tom Manger on Tuesday ripped into Fox News host Tucker Carlson over his commentary about footage from the January 6th Selfie Fest that he aired on Monday night, saying that the host cherry-picked from footage to present offensive and misleading conclusions about the attack. Again, just like the Selfie Fest committee did. Last night, an opinion program aired commentary that was filled with offensive and misleading conclusions about the January 6th attack. Manger, don't ever find this channel. Jesus. If that's what offended you, I can make you cry in a moment. And this is the chief of police in one of the, well, it's Capitol Police, so it's different, but still housed in one of the most dangerous cities in this country. Are you out of your mind, you simple-minded prick? Holy shit. Adding that Carlson show didn't reach out to the police department to provide accurate context. You gave your context. You can fuck yourself right out loud. As was mentioned in the McConnell article, the program conveniently cherry-picked from the calmer moments of over 41,000 hours of video. The commentary fails to provide context about the chaos and violence that happened before or during these less tense moments, Manger said. Don't you think that your people have the monopoly on that? So, mostly review. Tom Tillis, getting in on this, NPC News, bullshit. GOP senators rebuke Tucker Carlson for downplaying January 6th as mostly peaceful. From Scott Wong, and I think he might be Wong on this one, Liz Brown Kaiser, Sahil Kapoor, and Frank Thorpe the Fifth. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and other Senate Republicans Tuesday lashed out at conservative Fox News host Tucker Carlson after he characterized the deadly January 6th selfie fest as mostly peaceful chaos. At a GOP leadership press conference, McConnell said that he wanted to associate himself with the letter sent. Yeah, we read all this. A handful of other Senate Republicans on Tuesday pushed back on Carlson's claim that January 6th was peaceful chaos, with Tom Tillis of North Carolina blasting those remarks as bullshit. So listen. Don't worry, we'll get to the rest of them too.
I think it's bull. Is just a lie. I think it's bull. I was down there, and I saw maybe a few tourists, a few people who got caught up in things, but when you see police barricades breached, when you see police officers assaulted, all of that, or you had to be in close proximity to it, if you were just a tourist, you should have probably lined up at the visitor center and came in on an orderly basis. Is just...
Let's see, what else is there? Tillis said that Carlson's depiction was inexcusable and compared it to those who downplayed the fires and devastation during the protests in Kenosha in 2020 following the police shootings of Jacob Blake. Republican Senator Kevin Cramer, North Dakota conservative, said that he was in the Capitol and firmly rejected Carlson's portrayal of that day as some rowdy peace protest of Boy Scouts. I think that breaking through glass windows and doors to get into the U.S. Capitol against the borders of police is a crime. I think that particularly when you come into the chambers of the People's House, by the way, when you start opening the members' desks, when you stand up in their balcony, to somehow put that in the same category as, permitted peaceful protest is just a lie, Kramer said. I think it doesn't do any good for the narrative, he added. Mitt Romney got into this one. Mitt Romney said it's really sad. I've got a new Romney voice for this one. It's really sad to see Tucker Carlson go off the rails like that, saying that he's joining a range of shock jocks that are disappointing America and feeding falsehoods. And I use that voice now because if you listen to Mitt Romney and close your eyes, he sounds exactly like Barack Obama. He says the exact same things. The American people saw what happened on January 6th. They've seen the people that got injured. They saw the damage to the building. You can't hide the truth by selectively picking a few minutes and say this is what went on. It's absurd. It's nonsense. Mike Rounds of South Dakota also rejected Carlson's comments that the day was peaceful. I was there. I saw what happened. I saw the aftermath. There was violence on January 6th. Nobody is denying, by the way, that there was violence on January 6th. There's absolutely zero human being alive that is denying that there was violence on January 6th. What's being denied is that it was the majority of people who were involved, and whether it was dangerous enough to warrant the imagining that we might overthrow the government. I think the footage that's available should be made available to all networks. Oh, he's going to all networks it. And everybody should be able to see for themselves just what kind of chaos we had on that day. Again, the best thing that could happen with this would be all the footage gets leaked out to 4chan. And then we can just see it all. But there might be a security risk for the Capitol. Oh my God. Lindsey Graham, who flows with the wind. Lindsey Graham, who said, everybody who came into that chamber, sugar, and not who came into my chamber, I'll be talking about that some other time. But everybody who came into that chamber and sat in them seats that I have a hard time sitting in, they should be in jail. Ooh, I'm thinking about what happens in jail cells. Sugar, I'm getting all excited. Lindsey Graham, who said that, is now saying that the January 6th committee should be investigated, including why the panel did not focus much on the bombs that were planted at the DNC and RNC the night before the Capitol Selfie Fest, but he said, we don't want to whitewash January the 6th. I think January the 6th the committee had a partisan view of things, and I'd like to know more about what happened that day and the day before. But I'm not interested in whitewashing no COVID lab theory. I'm not interested in whitewashing January 6th. You can whitewash me anytime, sugar. So, that is what some of them had to say back. Chuck U. Schumer, in a tweet, comes out and says, well, I don't think that I've ever seen an anchor treat the American people and American democracy, which means our hegemony, with such disdain as Tucker Carlson did last night. And he'll come back tonight with another segment. Rupert Murdoch and Fox News know that it's a lie. They must order Tucker to stop. Goes along with what he had to say here.
These lies continue tonight. Rupert Murdoch, who has admitted they were lies and said he regretted it, has a special obligation to stop Tucker Carlson from going on tonight now that he's seen how he has perverted and slimed the truth, and from letting him go on again and again and again. Not because their views deserve such opprobrium, but because our democracy depends on it. These lies continue tonight.
Look, if I was Rupert Murdoch, well, number one, if I was Rupert Murdoch, I would have probably blown my own brains out by this point for being such an insidious cunt. But if I was Rupert Murdoch, coming from Chuck U. Schumer, who has slandered my name every chance that he can get in front of a camera and talk about Fox News and the New York Post and how evil they were and how it's just my own propaganda rag or my own propaganda channel or it's just propaganda and I'm a Trump butt sniffer and things like that. If I was Rupert Murdoch and I heard this, no matter how I felt about what Tucker Carlson was saying, I would look Chuck U. Schumer in the eye and tell him that he could go and fuck himself. He can go sit down on that microphone and have it jammed up his ass, and would probably be giving out more intelligent commentary than what's coming out of his mouth. No, Rupert Murdoch, I'm going to come back out and I'm going to tell you tell the world how evil you are when it comes time to, but when I need you now, I'm going to tell you that you've got this responsibility. And just do what I say, and then I will slander you again the next time it's politically convenient. You can go and fuck yourself, Chuck U. Schumer. Lori Mills, who is coming back to reply to Chris Coble on a thread coming off of this, Tucker Carlson, with the original video that we looked at from the beginning. Excuse me. Lori Mills comments, do something and stop being silenced by these lies. American citizens sit in jail as political prisoners, which is a fairly accurate assessment of what's happening with that. End this. To which another major blue pill take. Trump's lie about election fraud caused these folks to be there. Perhaps you should ask him. To do what? He's not a government official. And honestly, if he does come back in office, he's probably going to pardon a lot of these people. especially the ones who foolishly pled guilty. And the last one that we're going to do is kind of just a situation where we have to go back and say, seriously? Are you serious? From The Onion. So this is satire. This is not an actual news article. And this is from a publication as satire that I do enjoy. I haven't seen much from The Onion lately, so I can't say how much I enjoy them lately. Mostly because I don't see them that often. Not necessarily because they're doing bad. I can't say if they're doing bad or good lately because I don't see their content anymore. But as somebody who has enjoyed The Onion in the past, I look at this and I say, are you serious right now? This is the take that you wanted to go with? The Onion tweets out, are you sure that if I bum rush the speaker's lobby I won't be shot and killed? With a link to their story. Leaked January 6th text to the White House. Are you serious? Dude. That is demonic. But out of sheer curiosity, I want to see some of the other 32. So we'll back up all the way to the beginning. Start slideshow. Sean Hannity. Mr. President, you must go immediately address the rioters and tell them to watch Hannity at 9 to 8 Central. That's actually funny. I like that one. I'll give deference where deference is due. I like that one. 78150. Your X-Hamster login code is 230189. Don't share. Okay, I don't get that one. I know what X-Hamster is. I'm not a prude, but I don't get that one. Tom Cotton. If they kill Pence, I'm available for coffee next week. Let me know. That's kind of demonic. Ivanka Trump. This is... I don't even have to read that one to know what this is. Dad, my lawyers advised me to tell you that if you call off the rioters, so this text is proof that I did that. Jim Jordan. Mark, can you please ask the Capitol Guards to let me and my 1,000 friends in? That was lame. Pence. We cool? Steve Bannon. May the blood of the innocent dye our country's flag red. Let their screams of torment be our new national anthem. I actually think that was... I don't think that one's satire. I think he actually did that one. Brian Kilmeade. January 6th committee. Do not read this. Wow. That took a lot of imagination. Alan Alda. Mark, this is me, beloved television and film actor Alan Alda. Have you seen me in Same Time Next Year? Nice flick. Not my best, but if you're looking for something to put on, it's definitely worth a look. Anyway, know you have a lot going on right now, and we haven't talked before, but I thought I'd drop a suggestion. Liz Cheney. I could not have picked a worse time to drop acid. Okay. F. Chuck Todd. Why haven't Democrats called on the president's rioters to stand down more forcefully? I will say that, realistically, I can say that Onion is kind of hitting both sides on this one. They're being a little bit more lenient on the Democrats and Liz Cheney, but I still think that the Ashley Babbitt one was demonic, though. That one was too far. Tommy Tuberville. A tuber-duber stuber-dee-doo. That was really stupid. Roger Stone. I can't wait to plead the fifth about this. They talked about plead the fifth. Chris Christie. Someone please tell the president he's jeopardizing any chance of winning in 2024 and hiring me then. Good luck with that. Miranda with Vote Blue. Hey Mark, this is Miranda with Vote Blue. Democrats across the country need your help to get Donald Trump out of the Oval Office. Can you pitch in and help out? Visit our webpage to donate now. I get it. I get it. Laura Ingram. This is shameful. You call this a bloodthirsty mob? Trump Jr. Can you ask my dad to send me $15? Yeah, I'll get that one. Eric. If Don gets 15, then I get 15. Ted Cruz. Good job. Anyway, you ever see a turtle with its shell ripped off? Carson Daly. I don't know why I'm being consulted on this. Please stop texting me. This is kind of lame. I'm not going to lie. Domino's. Say big when you order 2 or more build your own pizzas. Use code YUM at checkout. Which is funny because Yum Brands is Pizza Hut. Epstein, who didn't kill himself. Shit seems crazy. Sending good vibes from Tahiti. Mark Meadows. Reminder to self to watch The Kingdom. Kellyanne Reck. By the way, apparently the divorce is official. I didn't follow up on it because I don't really care about the family life, but there are people out there saying, oh, Kellyanne Conway is back on the market. Nancy Pelosi. You guys are doing great. I think we're really selling this on our end too. Again, a little bit more of them hitting both sides. Q Shaman. All going great. Let me know which office you want me to take a shit in next. Did they ever actually prove that he was the one doing that? Bobert. Oops, meant that sexy pick for after we win. Baron. Dad, please reply so I know they didn't cut your head off. Please, Dad. Alright, a couple more. And then we'll do rules of acquisition and head out of here for the day. No Porch Boys tonight, it looks like. I thought that they would pop on. But it doesn't look like they're going to. Louis Gomert. I'm stuck in a bathroom stall and I don't know which floor of the building I'm on. I think I'm in the Capitol building. Please come help me. And please do not tell anyone that I've been stuck since yesterday. Boo. Another Ashley Babbitt one. I cannot... Really, Onion? Really? Really? That was in really bad taste. And check out these other slideshows. This is not the Onion that I grew up reading. And all in all, I'll give that about a 4 out of 10. Alright. Let's do rules of acquisition and head out of here for the day. So, formerly on Mondays, but now on Tuesdays. Every Tuesday, we will look through the Ferengi rules of acquisition. We will look through what the Ferengi religion believes, what it is that they think about this, and what this means for us. Now, for those of you who are not familiar in Trek literature, the Ferengi are an ultra-capitalist society who will come back out and use their prowess over other races in the galaxy and even against each other to make sure that they compete highly in capitalism as per their religion and get into the divine treasury at the end of life to bargain for a new life. We look over one of these rules of acquisition every single week. 2 last week, but we'll look over one every single week and we talk about whether or not it actually has bearing in real life, what it was meant to do in the show or in the book that it was featured in, and discuss how we can be good capitalists by looking at it. So we will scroll down and see where it was that we left off on Friday. We're getting down there. We're getting close to the end. So we talked about, even when you're a customer, sell yourself, which leads very well into the 153rd rule of acquisition: sell the sizzle, not the steak. From Deep Space Mine, a DS9 comic. So in beta continuity, not in official alpha continuity on screen, but we can talk about selling the sizzle and not the steak. So just like when we talked about when you're the customer, sell yourself, I asked the question, which person, if you were a salesman, like a car salesman, I use car salesman as an example, something that most everybody has and you often bargain for when you go, who do you want to sell and even offer a discount to more, if you're going to offer a discount? Or get somebody closer to retail or anything else like that. The person who's come in with a notebook and pages and files that say, well, this is what I should pay because this is what TrueCar said and this is what Kelly Blue Book said. I've done my research, I know what I should have here, and you need to give me this. Or the guy who comes in there and says, well, how's your family? Hey, I know I bought this car from you last year. My girlfriend's driving it, she loves it. I want to buy another car from you here. Hey, tell me about last time we talked here. Your kid had a baseball game. How did he do? Which person do you actually want to sell to, and which person do you want to take care of? When you're a customer, sell yourself. And in both, when you're the seller and the customer, you sell the sizzle, you sell the pizzazz, the bang. The people that are going in there are already going for the steak, and to use steak as the example. So, do you come back in there and give them the same steak that everybody else does? Or do you give them the pizzazz, the garnish, the sizzle? Which way do you want to go back and sell? Because I'm telling you right now, the people are going to pay more for the experience. It's part of the reason that hibachi is so popular, and it's one of my favorite meals. It's been a while since I've had it, but because the flash, the panache, the show. I can go anywhere and get a teriyaki, medium rare filet mignon. I can go to a lot of places. This is actually a good example. In Janesville, there were two places that you could get hibachi. The H&S Express, the Hibachi and Sushi Express, and then the Fuji Steakhouse. And I enjoyed both of them. But I was willing to go, take a date, and shell out, because there was a vast price difference between the two of them, to take a date, or to go out there with family, etc. I actually went to the Fuji the night that I got engaged the third time with my parents. And my then girlfriend, soon to be fiance after that. But we went to that. We had dinner at the Fuji. It was delicious. But that was at the time, and the inflation has taken it up even further, but that was at the time almost $150 for four of us. Whereas the exact same meals, although I don't know that they had filet at the H&S Express, I think they were just strictly done to strip steak. But even just at strip steak, that's, to feed four people was $60-$70, because they're selling the sizzle, not the steak. They're selling the show. H&S Express just put what you ordered in a box and sent it home with you. At the Fuji, you had a guy who'd sit there and talk to you, he'd flip the egg, he'd have a good old time cooking your meal for you right out in front of you. And it's with that and all, everything that you do. You sell groceries. You're going to tell the people how great the more expensive item is, or upsell to complement what it is that you're getting. If you're selling toaster ovens, you want the nice big flashy one. If you're selling cars, as much as people think that the economical choice is probably going to be better for them, there's still the vast majority of people out there that want the luxurious, either the big car with the big comfy seats that you can fit 25 people in, and still miraculously get 25 miles to the gallon to, as much as they want to have the exotic sports car. People still love the Lambo, the Ferrari. You can go in, and we'll use the car as the example. Walk out, walk in, get your Fiesta or your Edge, and be exactly like 25 million people out in the world. Hell, you can buy F-150s off the lot at a dime a dozen. Or you can get the one with the Flowmaster exhaust and the flashy headlights and the extended cab. And the sizzle's been sold. So, the 153rd rule of acquisition. Sell the sizzle, not the steak. And that brings us right up exactly to 8, so let's head out of here for the day. It was a good show. I like that one. Even though, again, I just spent legitimately... How long did we go? Because I started just a little bit after 6. Getting everything checked out and sending in a couple announcements out, because I think my parents were in the chat for a little while. They didn't chat, but I think that they were there. I sent it out, the invite, to my sister. But I would say, yeah, I just did probably a good hour and 45 minutes talking about 10 minutes of video on Fox News. But a lot of good discussion and a lot of, I have questions about the government. I've always had questions about the government, but even more now. Not just because I can say with absolute certainty, beyond the shadow of reasonable doubt, that the government lied to me. But now I have seen reasonable doubt in their narrative. And now I want to know more. And I hope the American people do as well. I really do. Alright, where's my outro music? Spartan with the toilet paper. Apparently Spartan is in prison and DLive is the only website he's allowed to use. Well, we're glad you're here no matter what, and I'm glad you're a captive audience at this point. Alright, outro music. There it is. Alright, so thank you everybody who made it to the end. We made it all the way through. I know it was a little bit dry and all we talked about was Tucker, and I fear, by the way, we're probably going to be doing a similar format tomorrow because this is big and it is reasonable doubt against a narrative that has been force-fed to us for 2 years. So we'll see what's happening with that, but we'll also see if we can catch up with the riots that are happening in Atlanta, with what's happening in the Ukraine, with what's happening in the debt ceiling. I hope we get to have some of that. Jim Jordan subpoenaing Nina Jankowicz. We still have a bunch of stuff to go over here, and I did take a few things off for the show tonight. So come back in. We will see what happens in the next 22 hours. Looking forward to seeing you guys there. Definitely having some fun and having some chat in the chat. And we will talk about something that I am thankful for at the end of the show as well. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to taking care of you guys and seeing what happens in the next 22 hours. Until tomorrow night, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.